Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Imagine changing the world from your university room. That's kind of what Mark Zuckerberg did. He started Facebook, a website that today connects billions of people around the world. Think about it. Most people you know probably use Facebook or Instagram, and Zuckerberg is the person who made that happen. It all began when he was a student at Harvard University. He was a clever programmer, and from a simple idea, Facebook grew very fast. Suddenly, this young student became incredibly rich and famous. By the age of 23, he was already a billionaire, but it hasn't all been easy. Zuckerberg has faced problems and arguments along the way. Some people even made a movie about him called The Social Network, which showed a complicated picture of his early success. Despite the challenges, Mark Zuckerberg is still a major figure in the world of technology, leading a company that affects how we communicate and share information every day. His story is a fascinating mix of innovation, success, and controversy. Chapter 1. Young Mark's Life. Mark Zuckerberg was born on May 14, 1984. This was in White Plains, New York, a place in the United States. His full name is Mark Elliott Zuckerberg. He was born into a family with interesting jobs. His mother, Karen, was a psychiatrist. This is a doctor who helps people with their minds and feelings. His father, Edward, was a dentist. A dentist takes care of people's teeth. Mark was not the only child in his family. He grew up with 3 sisters. Their names are Ariel, Randy, and Donna. So, Mark had a busy and probably lively home with his parents and sisters. His family had a religious background. They were raised in a Reformed Jewish home. This is a type of Jewish religion. They lived in a town called Dobbs Ferry, New York. This is where Mark spent his childhood. We also know a little bit about his family history. His great-grandparents came from different countries in Europe, Austria, Germany, and Poland. This means Mark's family had roots in different parts of the world before coming to America. For his early schooling, Mark first went to Ardsley High School. This was likely close to his home in Dobbs Ferry. Later, he changed schools. He moved to Phillips Exeter Academy. This is a special kind of school called a prep school. Prep schools are known for being very good and preparing students for university. It's like a high school, but often with higher standards and more focus on getting into top colleges. Phillips Exeter Academy was not just about books for Mark. He was also active in sports. He was the captain of the fencing team. Fencing is a sport where 2 people fight with special swords. Being the captain means he was good at fencing and also a leader for his team. This shows that even in his younger years, Mark was not just interested in computers, but also in other activities and being part of a team. Even though this chapter is called Young Mark's Life, it's important to remember that these early years were the start of something very big. Growing up in a family with parents who had professional careers, being raised in a Jewish household, and going to good schools all played a part in shaping who Mark became. His time at Phillips Exeter Academy, where he was both a student and a sports leader, likely helped him develop important skills. These skills would be useful later in his life when he started creating Facebook and leading a huge company. This early part of Mark's life might seem normal in some ways, like any other child growing up with family and school. But even in these early years, there were hints of the person he would become. We know he was good at school, especially in subjects that needed thinking and problem solving. And we know he was a leader in sports. These are all signs that Mark was a bright and capable young person, even before he became famous for Facebook. Understanding his young life helps us see where he came from and how he developed into the person who changed the world of social media. It's the foundation for the rest of his story. Chapter 2. First Steps in Coding. Mark wasn't just like other kids. While some children played with toys outside, Mark was interested in something else: computers. Even when he was very young, he wanted to know how computers worked and what they could do. This interest started in his childhood, and it became a big part of his life. Mark's parents saw his interest and helped him learn. They got him a computer and found him a tutor to teach him about programming. Programming is like giving instructions to a computer to make it do things. For Mark, it was like learning a new language. But instead of talking to people, he was talking to machines. He really enjoyed it. He was curious and wanted to create things with computers. Around the age of 11, Mark made his first program. It was called Zucknet. Think of it like a very early version of the internet, but just for his family. His father had a dental office in the same house where they lived. Zucknet was a program that allowed the computers in his house to talk to the computers in his father's office. This meant that his family could send messages to each other, even if they were in different parts of the house. It was a simple program, but it was important because it was something Mark created himself. It showed his early skill in making computers communicate. As Mark got older, his computer skills became even better. When he was in high school, he worked on a more complex project. He wanted to make a music player. But this wasn't just any music player. He called it Synapse Media Player. What made Synapse special was that it was smart. It used something called machine learning. This is a way for computers to learn from data without being directly told what to do every time. Synapse Media Player would learn what kind of music Mark liked to listen to. It would watch his listening habits. For example, if Mark always skipped a certain type of song or listened to other songs repeatedly, Synapse would notice. Then, it would use this information to guess what music Mark might want to hear next. It was like a music player that understood your taste and could suggest songs you would enjoy. This was quite advanced for a high school student to create. People in the tech world started to notice Mark's talent. His Synapse Media Player was posted on a website called Slashdot. Slashdot was a popular website for people interested in technology. It was like a place where people shared and discussed interesting tech news and projects. Synapse got a rating on Slashdot, which meant people were looking at it and giving their opinions. PC Magazine, a well-known computer magazine, also reviewed Synapse. They gave it a rating of 3 out of 5 stars. This was a good score and showed that even experts thought Mark's music player was interesting and well-made. It was a big achievement for a young programmer. Someone from a famous magazine called The New Yorker said something interesting about Mark. They said, "Some kids played computer games. Mark created them." This simple sentence really explains Mark's passion and skill. He wasn't just using computers to play games. He was using them to build games and other software. He was a creator, not just a user. He was always thinking about how to make new things with computers. Even while he was still in high school, Mark was so advanced in computers that he took a graduate-level computer course at Mercy College. This is like taking university classes while you were still in high school. He went to these classes on Thursday evenings. This showed how serious he was about learning more about computers and how much he was ahead of other students his age. These early experiences with coding were very important for Mark. He started young, he learned quickly, and he was always creating new things. From Zucknet to Synapse Media Player, these projects were like building blocks. They gave him the skills and the confidence to do even bigger things later in his life. These first steps in coding were the beginning of his journey to becoming a successful programmer and businessman. They showed that even as a young person, Mark had a special talent and a strong drive to create with computers. This early passion would eventually lead him to create something that would change the world. Facebook. Chapter 3. College and Trouble. After high school, Mark went to a famous university called Harvard. Harvard is in the city of Cambridge near Boston in the state of Massachusetts. He started university in 2002. Even before he arrived at Harvard, people knew Mark was very good at computers. Someone from a magazine called The New Yorker even said that when other kids played computer games, Mark made them. He had a reputation as a super programmer, even at a young age. At Harvard, Mark studied 2 main things: psychology and computer science. Psychology is about how people think and feel. Computer science is the study of computers and how they work. He lived in a student house called Kirkland House. He also joined a student group called Alpha Epsilon Pi. He was making friends and getting used to university life. But he was also still very interested in computers and programming. In his second year at Harvard, Mark created a useful program called Course Match. Choosing classes at university can be hard. There are many options, and students often want to take classes with their friends or classes that other students like. CourseMatch was designed to help students with this problem. It showed students which classes other students were choosing. This helped them decide what classes to take too. It also helped students find other people who were in the same classes so they could study together. CourseMatch was a helpful tool for students at Harvard. It made choosing classes easier and helped people connect with classmates. After CourseMatch, Mark created another program, but this one caused some problems. This program was first called FaceMash. The idea for FaceMash came from something called Facebooks at Harvard. These were not online books. They were real books made of paper. Harvard gave these Facebooks to students who lived in the student houses. The books had names and photos of all the students living in each house. It was a way for students to learn who everyone was. Mark got the idea to use these Facebooks to make a game. He took photos from the Facebooks. He put 2 photos of students on a website. People who visited the website could vote on which person in the photos was hotter or more attractive. The website would keep track of all the votes. It would then make a list ranking the students based on how many votes they got. FaceMash started as a simple project, but it quickly became very popular at Harvard. Many students went to the website to vote and see the rankings. It became popular very fast, especially over one weekend. However, not everyone was happy about FaceMash. Many students were upset because their photos were used on the website without their permission. They did not agree to have their pictures judged in this way. Some students felt it was not right to compare people's looks like this. They thought it was disrespectful and could hurt people's feelings. People started to complain to the university about FaceMash. The website also caused technical problems for Harvard. Because so many students were using FaceMash at the same time, it used a lot of the university's computer network. It used so much network power that it slowed down the internet for everyone at Harvard. Some students could not even get online to do their schoolwork because FaceMash was using up all the internet speed. Because of the complaints and the network problems, Harvard University decided to shut down FaceMash. The university officials told Mark to stop running the website. They said it was not allowed and was causing too many issues. After FaceMash was shut down, Mark apologized publicly. He knew that he had upset some people and caused problems. He said sorry for using the photos without permission and for causing trouble with the university's internet. The student newspaper at Harvard, called the Harvard Crimson, wrote article FaceMash. The newspaper said that Mark's website was completely improper. This means they thought it was wrong and not suitable for the university. This time with FaceMash was a period of trouble for Mark at college. He had created something that became popular, but it also caused negative reactions and got him into trouble with the university. Even though it was a problem, FaceMash showed how good Mark was at creating websites and programs that people wanted to use. It was a learning experience for him, even if it was a bit difficult at the time. This experience, both the positive part of creating something popular and the negative part of the trouble it caused, would be important for what Mark did next. Chapter 4. Facebook is born. It was January 2004. Mark was still a student at Harvard University. He was known as a very clever programmer. He started to work on a new project. This time, it wasn't just a small program for students. This was going to be a website for people to connect. Maybe the idea came from his school days before Harvard. At Phillips Exeter Academy, the school he went to before college, they had something called the Photo Address Book. Students called it the Facebook. It was a book with photos and names of all the students. It also had information like their class year, friends, and phone numbers. This book was important for students to know each other at school. Mark probably remembered this idea. So, in January 2004, Mark started to write the code for his own Facebook, but this time it would be online. He didn't do it alone. He worked with some of his roommates and friends from Harvard. These were Eduardo Saverin, Andrew McCollum, Dustin Moskovitz, and Chris Hughes. Together, they became the first team behind Facebook. After working hard for about a month, the website was ready. On the 4th of February, 2004, Mark launched it. The first name of the website was TheFacebook. It was online at the address thefacebook.com. At the start, it was only for Harvard students. You needed a Harvard email address to join. The website was simple, but it was new and interesting. Students could create profiles with their photos and information. They could find friends and see what was happening with other students. It was like an online version of the Facebook book from his old school, but much more interactive. But even as Facebook was starting, there was trouble. Just 6 days after Facebook launched, 3 older students from Harvard, Cameron Winklevoss, Tyler Winklevoss, and Divya Narendra, were not happy. They said Mark had tricked them. They said they had asked Mark to help them build a social network called harvardconnection.com. They claimed Mark had used their ideas to make his own website, Facebook, instead of helping them. These 3 students complained to the Harvard newspaper, the Harvard Crimson. The newspaper started to look into it. Mark tried to stop the story from being published. It is even said that he looked at the emails of the newspaper editors to try to find out what they knew. This was not a good thing to do. Later, these 3 students, the Winklevoss twins and Divya Narendra, decided to sue Mark. They started a legal case against him. They said he stole their ideas and made Facebook using their plans. This lawsuit would become a big problem for Mark and Facebook for years. Even with this trouble, Facebook was growing fast at Harvard. It was becoming very popular. Mark and Dustin Moskovitz, one of his co-founders, realized that Facebook could be bigger than just Harvard. They decided to open it up to other universities. They started with Columbia University, New York University, Stanford University, and some other big schools. Students at these universities could now also join Facebook. It was no longer just a Harvard thing. It was becoming a network for many college students. By this time, Mark had a big decision to make. Facebook was taking up all his time. He was still a student at Harvard, but he was spending most of his days and nights working on the website. He realized he couldn't do both well. So, in his second year of college, Mark made a big choice. He decided to leave Harvard. He dropped out of university to focus completely on Facebook. It was a risky decision. Many people thought college was very important for success, but Mark believed in Facebook. He thought it could be something really big. He and his friends, Dustin Moskovitz and the other co-founders, packed up and moved to California. They went to a place called Palo Alto, which is in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is known as the center of computer technology in California and even the world. They rented a small house in Palo Alto. This house became their first office. It was a simple start, but they were in the right place. During that summer, Mark met someone important. His name was Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was a businessman and investor. He saw the potential in Facebook and decided to invest money in the company. This was a very important moment. It gave Facebook the money it needed to grow even faster. By the middle of 2004, Facebook had its first real office, not just a house. They were starting to become a real company. Even though they were now in California and things were going well, they thought about going back to Harvard. They had planned to return to college, but they changed their minds. They decided to stay in California, in Silicon Valley. Mark said he liked the mythical place of Silicon Valley. It was the place to be for computer technology. Even early on, when Facebook was still small, some big companies wanted to buy it. Chapter 5. Facebook gets bigger. After Facebook started at Harvard University, it became very popular very quickly. Students loved it. They could see what their friends were doing, share photos, and connect with people in their classes. Mark Zuckerberg and his friends, who were helping him with Facebook, saw that it was becoming something special. It was no longer just a small project for Harvard. People at other universities started to hear about Facebook, and they wanted it too. Students from Columbia University, New York University, Stanford University, and many more asked if they could join. Mark and Dustin Moskovitz, one of his friends and helpers, started to work on making this happen. They opened up Facebook to more and more schools. It was like a chain reaction. Once students at one university could use Facebook, students at other universities nearby wanted it as well. This was a very busy time for Mark. He was still a student at Harvard, But Facebook was taking up more and more of his time. He had to make a big decision. Should he stay in school, or should he focus all his energy on Facebook? He chose Facebook. Mark decided to leave Harvard University. This is called dropping out. It was a big risk, but he believed in Facebook and its potential. He felt that to make Facebook really great, he needed to work on it full-time, without the distractions of classes and exams. So, Mark, Dustin, and some of the other people working on Facebook made a big move. They left the cold weather of Boston and Harvard and went to California. They chose a place called Palo Alto, which is in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is famous as a center for computer companies and new technology. It was a good place for Facebook to be if they wanted to grow. When they arrived in Palo Alto, they didn't have a fancy office. They rented a small house. This house became their first office. It was probably a bit crowded, but it was where they worked, coded, and planned the future of Facebook. During this time, Mark met an important person named Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was a businessman who believed in new ideas and companies. He saw the potential in Facebook. Peter Thiel decided to invest money in Facebook. This was a very important moment. The investment from Peter Thiel gave Facebook more money to grow, hire more people, and get a real office. In the middle of 2004, Facebook got its first proper office. It wasn't a huge building, but it was much better than working from a small house. Facebook was becoming a real company. Even though they were growing fast, some big companies noticed Facebook and wanted to buy it. These companies offered Mark a lot of money to take over Facebook. But Mark said no. He explained why in an interview later. He said it wasn't about the money. For him and his team, the most important thing was to create something special. An open information flow for people. He didn't like the idea of big media companies owning Facebook and controlling it. He wanted Facebook to stay independent and focused on its mission. Facebook continued to get more and more users. It wasn't just for university students anymore. They started to allow high school students to join, and then people in other countries. More and more people around the world were signing up for Facebook. By 2010, just a few years after it started, Facebook had reached a huge milestone: 500 million users. That's 500 million people using Facebook to connect with friends and family, share their lives, and see what was happening in the world. Mark Zuckerberg was surprised and excited by this incredible growth. People started to wonder if Facebook could make even more money from advertising. Websites often make money by showing ads to their users. Mark knew they could put more ads on Facebook pages and earn more. But he decided to do things differently. He said that Facebook pages had fewer ads compared to search engines like Google. He explained that they made enough money. For Mark, it wasn't just about making as much money as possible. It was about keeping Facebook running well and growing in the way they wanted to. Mark's decision to leave university and move to California was a turning point. Getting investment and turning down offers to sell the company were also key moments. Facebook was no longer just for students. It was becoming something much, much bigger. This rapid growth set the stage for even more changes and challenges for Mark and Facebook in the years to come. Chapter 6: Problems and Lawsuits. As Facebook got bigger and bigger, Mark Zuckerberg and his company also faced some big problems. It wasn't always easy being in charge of something so important, and sometimes things went wrong. One type of problem was legal problems, meaning people took Mark and Facebook to court because they thought something unfair or illegal had happened. These were called lawsuits. Let's look at some of these problems. One of the first big lawsuits came from some students at Harvard, the same university where Facebook started. 3 students, called Cameron Winklevoss, Tyler Winklevoss, and Divya Narendra, said that Mark had stolen their idea. They explained that they had asked Mark to help them build a social website called Harvard Connection. They said Mark agreed to help, but instead, he used their idea to make Facebook for himself. They felt cheated because they thought Mark was going to work for them, but he actually made a website that competed with theirs. This started a lawsuit in 2004. It was a long and complicated legal fight. At first, the court didn't agree with the students because of a technical reason, but they tried again, and the case continued. Facebook also started a lawsuit back against them. In 2008, after a few years, they finally agreed to stop fighting and make a deal. Facebook agreed to give the Winklevoss twins and Narendra some money and some shares in Facebook. Shares are like pieces of ownership in a company. This deal was worth millions of dollars, and it ended this first big legal problem. Another problem happened with Eduardo Saverin. Eduardo was one of the friends who helped Mark start Facebook. He was also a co-founder, meaning he was there from the beginning. But later, Eduardo and Mark had disagreements about how to run the company. In 2005, Eduardo started a lawsuit against Mark and Facebook. He said that Mark had spent his money in a wrong way for personal things. This was also a difficult situation between friends and business partners. Like the first lawsuit, this one was also settled outside of court. This means they made a private agreement instead of letting a judge decide. We don't know all the details of the agreement, but we know that Eduardo was still named as a co-founder of Facebook. Then, in 2010, a man named Paul Seglia started a lawsuit claiming that he owned a big part of Facebook, even more than Mark. Seglia said he had a contract from 2003 with Mark. He said this contract proved that he owned 84% of Facebook. He said he had paid Mark $1,000 back then to start a website. However, Facebook said this was not true and that the contract was fake. Facebook said Seglia was trying to cheat Mark out of billions of dollars. The police got involved and arrested Seglia in 2012. They said he had made up emails and changed documents to try to win the case. This lawsuit went on for a long time, and many lawyers stopped working for Seglia because they thought his case was not real. Later, Mark had to speak in front of the U.S. Congress, which is like the government's group of lawmakers. This happened in 2018 and 2021. The politicians wanted to ask him about Facebook and user data. This was after a big problem, where a company called Cambridge Analytica had used information from many Facebook users without their permission. This was a big scandal about privacy and how Facebook protected people's information. Mark had to answer many difficult questions about what Facebook was doing to keep user data safe and what Facebook's role was in spreading information, including misinformation and hate speech. He said Facebook needed to do better and was taking steps to improve. These are just some examples of the problems and lawsuits Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook faced as they grew. They show that success can bring not only great things, but also big challenges and legal battles. Chapter 7. Mark in Movies and Television. After Facebook became famous all over the world, people started to make stories about Mark Zuckerberg and his company. One of the most famous stories was a movie called The Social Network. This chapter is about how Mark and Facebook were shown in movies and on television. In 2010, a movie came out called The Social Network. It was all about how Mark started Facebook when he was at Harvard University. A famous actor, Jesse Eisenberg, played Mark in the movie. When Mark heard about the movie, he said he wished nobody made a movie about him while he was still alive. He felt a bit strange about it. People who made the movie read a book called The Accidental Billionaires. This book told a story about Facebook that was very interesting and fun, but maybe not completely true. The person who wrote the movie script, Aaron Sorkin, said that he wanted to tell a good story, not just the exact truth. He said it's okay if some things are changed a little bit to make the story better. When the movie was finished, not everyone thought it showed Mark in a good way. Some people thought it made him look like he wasn't very nice. Mark himself was worried that people would think he was a bad person after watching the movie. He wanted people to know that he was a good guy. However, the movie was very successful. It won many awards, like the Golden Globe Award for Best Picture. The people who made the movie even thanked Mark Zuckerberg when they got the award. They said they used his life and work to tell a story about how people communicate today. The writer of the movie, Aaron Sorkin, even said sorry to Mark if the movie made him look bad. He said Mark was a great businessman, a visionary, and someone who wants to help others. One funny thing happened after the movie came out. Mark Zuckerberg actually met Jesse Eisenberg, the actor who played him, on a television show called Saturday Night Live. It was the first time they had ever met. Jesse asked Mark what he thought about the movie. Mark just said, "It was interesting." Jesse Eisenberg said he was nervous to meet Mark because he had been thinking about him for a long time to play him in the movie. He thought Mark was very kind to even come on the show and make jokes about the movie, even though it wasn't always nice about him. But was the movie really true? Some people who know Mark said that the movie was only about 40% true. David Kirkpatrick, who wrote a book about Facebook, said that the movie changed many things. He said Mark is not really mean or sarcastic like he is in the movie. He said that many things in the movie happened, but they were changed and twisted. He said the movie gives a wrong idea about Mark. According to David, Mark's main goal was to create a new way for people to share information on the internet. The movie showed that Mark started Facebook to become popular because he didn't get into some special clubs at Harvard. But Mark said he was not interested in those clubs at all. Someone who used to work with Mark at Facebook, Carol Balloon, also said that the movie was not very accurate. He said Mark is not a socially awkward nerd like in the movie. He said it's not true that Mark would betray his friends on purpose. So, while The Social Network was a fun and interesting movie, it wasn't completely true to life. Besides The Social Network, Mark Zuckerberg also appeared in other funny shows. He was a cartoon character in The Simpsons. In one episode, Lisa Simpson met Mark at a meeting for business people. Cartoon Mark told Lisa that she didn't need to finish college to be successful, like Bill Gates and Richard Branson. The television show Saturday Night Live also made fun of Mark and Facebook in a comedy sketch. An actor, Andy Samberg, played Mark. People said Mark Zuckerberg thought it was funny. He said he liked the sketch. Stephen Colbert, who was a comedian, even gave Mark Zuckerberg a funny award called Medal of Fear. He gave it to Mark because he said Mark cares a lot about his own privacy, but maybe not so much about other people's privacy on Facebook. Mark also appeared in a documentary movie called Terms and Conditions May Apply. This movie was about how much privacy we lose when we use the internet and agree to all the website rules. Even the cartoon show South Park made fun of Mark Zuckerberg. They showed him as a strange, nerdy person who would just show up in people's houses and act like a bully. In short, Mark Zuckerberg became so famous that he was shown in many movies and television shows. The Social Network was the most famous one, telling a dramatic story about the start of Facebook, even if it wasn't perfectly true. Other shows made fun of him in a funny way. These shows show how much Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg became a big part of popular culture, even if the way they showed him was sometimes not very accurate or very kind. Chapter 8. Giving Money Away. As Facebook grew bigger and bigger, Mark Zuckerberg became incredibly rich. We learned in the last chapters how Facebook changed the world and made Mark famous. But money wasn't the only thing that changed for Mark. He started to think about how he could use his wealth to help others. He realized he had the chance to make a big difference in the world, not just with Facebook, but with his money too. One of the first big things Mark did was to give money to schools. In 2010, he decided to donate a lot of money, $100 million, to the public schools in a city called Newark in New Jersey. Newark schools had problems, and Mark wanted to help make them better for the children there. This was a really large amount of money, and people were very surprised and interested. Some people wondered why Mark gave so much money at that time. It was just when a movie about him, The Social Network, was coming out. This movie didn't show Mark in a very good light. Some people thought maybe he was giving money to make himself look like a good person. But Mark said that wasn't true. He said he didn't want the movie to be connected to his donation. He even thought about giving the money secretly, so nobody would know it was him. However, the mayor of Newark and the governor of New Jersey persuaded him to make it public. The money was meant to help Newark schools in many ways. But sadly, it seems like the money didn't work as well as everyone hoped. Some people say it was wasted. A journalist even wrote that the money was largely wasted. This is a shame because Mark really wanted to help the students in Newark. It shows that even when you give a lot of money, it's not always easy to fix big problems. Despite this, Mark was still committed to giving back. In 2010, he joined something called the Giving Pledge. This is a promise that rich people make to give away at least half of their money to good causes during their lives. Other very rich people like Bill Gates and Warren Buffett also joined this pledge. Mark said he and his wife Priscilla would give away most of their money to help people and make the world more equal. In 2013, Mark made another huge donation. He gave away Facebook shares worth almost $1 billion to a group called the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. This was the biggest gift anyone in America gave to charity that year. This foundation helps many different things, including education. Mark and Priscilla also gave money to help with health problems. In 2014, when there was a big Ebola outbreak in West Africa, they donated $25 million to help fight the disease. Then, in 2015, they gave $75 million to the San Francisco General Hospital. This hospital is very important for the city, and their donation was the biggest gift ever given to a public hospital in the USA by one person. Because of this big gift, the hospital even changed its name to be called the Priscilla Chan and Mark Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital and Trauma Center. However, later on, some people in San Francisco were not happy about this because of problems with Facebook and how it was used. But the biggest step in Mark and Priscilla's giving was the creation of the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, or CZI. In 2015, they announced they would give away 99% of their Facebook shares, which was worth about $45 billion at that time, to this new project. This was a truly massive commitment. They planned to give this money away over their lifetimes, not all at once. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is not like a traditional charity. It's set up as a special type of company called an LLC. This gives Mark and Priscilla more control over how the money is used. The goal of CZI is very broad: to advance human potential and promote equality. They want to help make life better for everyone in the world. Some people call this kind of giving philanthrocapitalism. One big part of CZI is the Chan Zuckerberg BioHub. This is a research center in San Francisco. It brings together scientists from top universities like Stanford, Berkeley, and the University of California, San Francisco. CZI gave $600 million to start the BioHub. The idea is to help scientists work together to find cures for diseases and make new discoveries in science. Unlike some charities, the BioHub can also make money from the research it funds, but it also encourages scientists to share their work openly. Even during the COVID-19 pandemic, Mark and Priscilla continued to give help. They donated money to help find treatments for the virus and also supported local news organizations that were struggling during the pandemic. Mark Zuckerberg's journey changed a lot. He went from a student making websites in his dorm room to a billionaire who wanted to use his wealth to solve big problems. His donations have been massive and have touched many areas, from education to health and science. While some of his early donations had mixed results, his commitment to giving back through the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative shows a long-term plan to make a positive impact on the world. This chapter shows that Mark's story is not just about building a company, but also about using his success to help others in a big way. Chapter 9. Why is Mark so rich and successful? Mark Zuckerberg is known around the world. He is famous for creating Facebook, a website that many people use every day. But how did he become so rich and successful? It's not just luck. There are many reasons why Mark Zuckerberg reached the top. First, he had a great idea at the right time. When Mark was in college at Harvard, the internet was becoming more popular. People liked to be online, but there wasn't one main place to connect with friends easily online. Mark saw this gap. He thought about how students at Harvard used Facebooks, books with photos and names of everyone in the dorms. He had the idea to make this online. This idea, to connect people through the internet in a simple way, was very new and exciting in 2004. Second, he made something people really wanted to use. Facebook started as the Facebook for Harvard students only. It was a place to see friends, find classes, and know what was happening on campus. People at Harvard loved it. Then, Mark and his friends expanded it to other universities like Columbia, Stanford, and Yale. Very quickly, students everywhere wanted to be on Facebook. It was easy to use and fun. People could share photos, write messages, and see what their friends were doing. This made Facebook very popular very fast. Third, Facebook grew because of the network effect. This is a fancy way of saying that Facebook became more useful as more people joined. If only a few people used Facebook, it wouldn't be very interesting. But when all your friends, family, and classmates are on it, it becomes much more valuable. You can connect with everyone you know in one place. This made more and more people want to join, and Facebook grew bigger and bigger like a snowball rolling down a hill. Fourth, Mark was good at business and made smart decisions. Even when Facebook was new, big companies wanted to buy it. But Mark and his team said no. They believed in their idea and wanted to keep building it themselves. This was a very important decision. They didn't just want to make money quickly and sell the company. They wanted to make Facebook even bigger and more important. Also, Mark understood early that Facebook could make money from advertising. Companies could pay to show ads to Facebook users. Because so many people used Facebook, these ads became very valuable, and Facebook started making a lot of money. Fifth, Mark was a hard worker and a good programmer. The Wikipedia article says he was a programming prodigy even in college. He learned to code when he was young and was very skilled. He wrote the first code for Facebook himself. He also created other computer programs before Facebook. This technical skill was very important to build Facebook and make it work well. He also worked very hard, even dropping out of Harvard to focus completely on Facebook. This dedication and hard work helped him overcome challenges and keep improving Facebook. Sixth, Facebook kept changing and getting better. Facebook didn't stay the same as it was in 2004. Mark and his team kept adding new things and making it better. They created new features like photo sharing, video, and many other things that people wanted. They also bought other popular apps like Instagram and WhatsApp. This meant that Facebook became even more useful and important in people's lives. By always improving and expanding, Facebook stayed ahead of other websites and kept attracting more users. Seventh, taking Facebook public made him incredibly rich. In 2012, Facebook became a public company. This means that anyone could buy shares in the company. When Facebook went public, the value of the company was very, very high. Because Mark owned a lot of Facebook shares, he became a billionaire almost overnight. The value of Facebook has grown even more since then, making Mark one of the richest people in the world. Of course, it wasn't always easy. Mark faced lawsuits and criticism. Some people said he stole ideas, and there were worries about privacy on Facebook. But through all of this, Facebook continued to grow and become more important. In conclusion, Mark Zuckerberg's success is a mix of many things. He had a great idea at the right time. He made something people loved. He made smart business decisions, and he worked very hard. His skills and vision, combined with the power of the internet and network effects, are the main reasons why he became so rich and successful with Facebook. It's a story of innovation, hard work, and understanding what people want in the digital world. Chapter 10. Mark's Life Now. We have followed Mark Zuckerberg's journey from a young boy who loved computers to the creator of Facebook, a company known all over the world. Now, we will look at Mark's life today. What is he doing now, after all the success and challenges? This chapter will talk about his family, his interests outside of work, and his role in the bigger world. Mark is not just a businessman anymore. He is also a husband and a father. In 2012, he married Priscilla Chan. They met when they were both students at Harvard University. Priscilla is a doctor, and she and Mark have been together for a long time. Their wedding was a small and private event in their backyard, which was also a celebration of Priscilla finishing medical school. Mark and Priscilla have 3 daughters. Their first daughter, Maxima, was born in 2015. They gave her a Chinese name, Chen Mingyu, which is special to their family. Their second daughter, August, was born in 2017, and their third, Aurelia, arrived in 2023. Mark often talks about his daughters and how they are important in his life. He has said that becoming a father has changed how he thinks about the world and the future. Family is clearly very important to Mark. He and Priscilla have also used their wealth to start something called the Zuckerberg Initiative. This is a project where they want to use their money to help solve big problems in the world, like diseases and inequality. It shows that they want to make a positive difference beyond just Facebook. Besides his family and work, Mark has also become more interested in politics. In the past, he didn't talk much about politics, but that has changed. He has used his platform to talk about important issues and even met with political leaders from different countries. For example, he has spoken about immigration and the importance of helping people who come to the U.S. from other countries. He has also talked about online safety and the need to protect people on the internet. Sometimes, his company Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, has faced criticism about these issues. Mark has had to answer questions from politicians and even give evidence to government committees about how Facebook works and what it is doing to solve problems. Mark has also been involved in political fundraising. He has supported politicians from different parties, focusing on issues like education reform. He even started a group called FWDS to push for changes in areas like immigration and technology. This shows that Mark is not just focused on his company, but also on how to make the world better in other ways. However, Mark's political involvement has not always been easy. Sometimes, people have disagreed with his views or the actions of his company. He has been in situations where he had to defend his company and his beliefs. Recently, he has mentioned that he regrets not pushing back more against government pressure to remove certain content related to COVID-19 on Facebook. This shows that he is still learning and thinking about his role and the responsibilities that come with running a big platform like Facebook. Despite the serious side of his work and political interests, Mark also has personal hobbies. Recently, he has become very interested in martial arts, especially Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ, and mixed martial arts, MMA. He has been training in these sports and even competed in a BJJ tournament, winning medals. This shows a different side of Mark, one that enjoys physical challenges and competition. In terms of his public image, Mark has changed over the years. In the early days of Facebook, he was often seen as a young, sometimes awkward, tech genius. Movies like The Social Network showed a somewhat negative picture of him. But over time, his image has evolved. He is now seen as a powerful and influential leader in the tech world. Recently, there has been a noticeable change in his style. He used to be known for wearing simple gray t-shirts and jeans, but now he is sometimes seen wearing more fashionable clothes, like gold chains and trendy streetwear. Some people have even joked that this is a rebrand to appeal to different groups. But Mark says he doesn't have a stylist and his style choices are personal. Overall, Mark Zuckerberg's life now is a mix of many things. He is still the CEO of Meta, leading a huge company that affects billions of people. He is a husband and father, focused on his family. He is interested in politics and philanthropy, trying to use his influence to make a difference. And he also has personal passions, like martial arts. His life is complex and busy, showing that he is not just a tech leader, but a person with many different roles and interests in today's world. From a college dorm room to the world stage, Mark Zuckerberg's journey continues to be one of constant change and evolution. Conclusion: we have followed Mark Zuckerberg's amazing journey, from a young boy learning to code to the head of a company used by billions of people. His idea for Facebook started small in a college room, but it grew into something huge that changed how the world connects. Because of Facebook, people can share their lives, talk to friends everywhere, and learn about the world in new ways. Mark became incredibly successful and one of the richest people on earth. However, his story is not just about success. He also faced many problems. There were lawsuits about who created Facebook, and he had to deal with criticism about privacy and the way Facebook is used. Movies and television shows have told his story, sometimes in a way he didn't like. Despite these challenges, Mark has also used his wealth to do good things. He and his wife started the Zuckerberg Initiative to help with education, science, and health. They have given away billions of dollars to try and make the world better. Mark Zuckerberg's life is still being written. He has changed a lot over the years, and his company continues to grow and change too. Whether you see him as a genius, a controversial figure, or both, there is no doubt that Mark Zuckerberg has had a massive impact on the 21st century and will likely continue to shape our future in the digital world.
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.